Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings. We start today's satsang with the prayer by Srimati Sapna Ganesh. It will be followed by chanting of Muktaka trayam.
दक्षिणामूर्तिसारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमां रमणाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये आङ्गिकं भुवनं यस्य वाचिकं सर्ववाङ्मयम् आहार्यं चन्द्रतारादि तं नमः सात्विकं शिवम् ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय. Namo Ramana to everyone.
एकमक्षरम् हृदि निरन्तरम् भासते स्वयं लिख्यते कथम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् ह्यहमहमिति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति. हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता वा पवनचलनरोधात् आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्. देहं मृण्मयवज्जडात्मकम् अहं वृत्तिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तदभावशुद्धिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भावतः. कोऽहं भावयुतः कुतो वरधिया दृष्टात्मनिष्ठात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयम्. सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयम्. Namo Ramana. We will now have the chanting of Upadesa Saram by Uma Shripati and Ashwini Balaji.
Namo Ramana. वायुरोधनात् लीयते मनः जानपक्षिवद्रोदसादनम् चित्तवायवश्चित्क्रियायुताः शाखयोर्द्वयी शक्तिमूलका लय विनाशने उभयरोदने लयगतं पुनर्भवति नोऽमृतम् प्राणबन्धनात् लीनमानसम् एकचिन्तनात् नाशमेत्यद नष्टमानसो उत्कृष्टयोगिना कृत्यमस्ति किं स्वस्थितिं यत दृश्यवारितं चित्तमात्मना चित्वदर्शनं तत्त्वदर्शनं मानसं तु किं मार्गणे कृते नैव मानसं मार्गार्जवात् वृत्तयस्त्वहं वृत्तिमाश्रिताः वृत्तयो मनो विद्याहं मनः अहमयं कुतो भवति चिन्मत ऐपतत्यहं निजविचारणम् अहमिनाशभाज्यहमहं तय स्फुरतिरत्स्वयं परमपूर्णस नमो रमण।
Namo Ramana. We will now have 4 songs presented from Ramananjali Sangeetam. The first one will be presented by Srimati V. Radha along with Vallabh Srinivasan. The second song will be by Dr. Prathibha Sundaresh. The third song will be presented by Savitri Krishnan and Sri Jayasriram Krishnan. The fourth song will be by Revathi Shankar.
Namo Ramana to all. We will be presenting a song written by Sri Muruganaswamy, a Telugu translation written by Sri J.H. Bhimacharya, music by Sri H.K. Narayana.
शरणं स्वामी श्रीरमणा नीवाडनु नेनय्या ना जीवितं चीकटिमयं వెలుగు నిమ్ము భాస్కరా శరణం స్వామి శ్రీరమణ నీవాడను నేనయ్యా నా జీవితం చీకటిమయం వెలుగు నిమ్ము భాస్కరా నేను నీవాడనని నీ లీలలే పలికినవి పాలన చేయగవచ్చితివి పరీక్షలింకేలా నేను నీ వాడనని నీ లీలలే పలికినవి పాలన చేయగవచ్చితివి పరీక్షలింకేలా శరణం స్వామి శ్రీరమణ నీ వాడను నేనయ్యా నా జీవితం చీకటిమయం వెలుగు నిమ్ము భాస్కరా కష్టములెన్నో కలిగినను రక్షణ చేసిడి ప్రభు నీవే నావికుడివే రమణయ్య నన్నే తీరము చేర్చితివి కష్టములెన్నో కలిగినను రక్షణ చేసిడి ప్రభు నీవే నావికుడివే రమణయ్య నన్నే తీరము చేర్చితివి శరణం స్వామి శ్రీరమణ నీ వాడను నేనయ్యా నా జీవితం చీకటిమయం వెలుగు నిమ్ము భాస్కరా నిన్నే ఎరుగని సమయాన నన్నే బ్రోవగ వచ్చితివి దయతో పన్నిన తంత్రమిది నీ దయ రమణ ఎరుగుదును నిన్నే ఎరుగని సమయాన నన్నే బ్రోవగ వచ్చితివి దయతో పన్నిన తంత్రమిది నీ దయ రమణ ఎరుగుదును శరణం స్వామి శ్రీరమణ నీ వాడను నేనయ్యా నా జీవితం చీకటిమయం వెలుగు నిమ్ము భాస్కర. శరణం స్వామి శ్రీరమణ, నీ వాడను నేనయ్యా, నా జీవితం చీకటిమయం. వెలుగు నిమ్ము భాస్కర, వెలుగు నిమ్ము భాస్కర, వెలుగు నిమ్ము భాస్కర. నమో రమణ.
Through this song, Sri Sadhu Om Swami pleads to Bhagwan Ramana, the enthroned king at Annamalai, to bestow grace on this servant. He says, "You are that self-luminous power enveloping the whole world within and without. Unexplainable, my mere words. You alone can remove all my discontentment and bless me." அண்ணாமலை தனிலே அமர்ந்திருக்கும் அரசே, அண்ணாமலை தனிலே அமர்ந்திருக்கும் அரசே, ஆனந்தமான வாழ்வை அடியேனிக்கு அருள் செய்வாய். ஆனந்தமான வாழ்வை அடியேனுக்கு அருள் செய்வாய். அருள் செய்வாய் ரமண தேவா, அருள் செய்வாய் ரமண தேவா, அருள் செய்வாய் ரமண தேவா, அருள் செய்வாய் ரமண தேவா. எங்கும் நிறைந்திருந்தே ஏகமயானவரே, எங்கும் நிறைந்திருந்தே ஏகமயானவரே, ஏகம் நிறைந்த என்னை இன்பமடைய செய்வாய். ஏகம் நிறைந்த என்னை இன்பமடைய செய்வாய். அருள் செய்வாய் ரமண தேவா, அருள் செய்வாய் ரமண தேவா, அருள் செய்வாய் ரமண தேவா, அருள் செய்வாய் ரமண தேவா. சொல்லி விளக்க உன்னை சொற்களுண்டோ உலகில், சொல்லி விளக்க உன்னை சொற்களுண்டோ உலகில். ஜோதி உள் ஜோதியாக ஜொலிக்கும் சுயம் சுடரே, ஜோதி உள் ஜோதியாக ஜொலிக்கும் சுயம் சுடரே. அருள் செய்வாய் ரமண தேவா, அருள் செய்வாய் ரமண தேவா, அருள் செய்வாய் ரமண தேவா, அருள் செய்வாய் ரமண தேவா. அண்ணாமலை தனிலே அமர்ந்திருக்கும் அரசே, ஆனந்தமான வாழ்வை அடியேனுக்கு அருள் செய்வாய். அருள் செய்வாய் ரமண தேவா, அருள் செய்வாய் ரமண தேவா, அருள் செய்வாய் ரமண தேவா, அருள் செய்வாய் ரமண தேவா. ரமண தேவா ரமண தேவா, 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 ரமண தேவா ரமண தேவா. ஓம் நமோ பகவதே ஸ்ரீ ரமணாய.
ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே, ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே, ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே, ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே. மூத்த மனதே ஒருமை செய்யுமென் மூர்த்தி பாதம் வாழ்கவே ஓர்த்திடதுவும் சாதனமாமென்று உரைப்போன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே முக்தன் பரமன் அமலன் விமலன் ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே முக்தன் பரமன் அமலன் விமலன் ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே மம பபாரி ரி சமகரி ரி சார சரி மகரி சரி பாமபா உலகெல்லாம் இறை உடனென்றுரையும் சித்தன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே முக்தன் பரமன் அமலன் விமலன் ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே தாதா பம பம பத பதாதா மபதரி சனிதா பதா பபா ஆசை அறலே ஞானம் என்னும் வழிகள் பாதம் வாழ்கவே முக்தன் பரமன் அமலன் விமலன் ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே ரிமா பத பபா மபத பாப்பா மகரி ரத மபத பத தசா சரி சா சனித பாப்பா மபத பதா தசா சசா நாம் எழுப்பிறர் எழுவர் என்று நபிகோன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே நாம் அடங்கில் அடங்குவர் என்னும் நண்பன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே முக்தன் பரமன் அமலன் விமலன் ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே தாபா மகரி சரி மகரி ரி சத சரி ரி ரி மகரி பம பதாதா தம பதரி சனித தாசரி ரி மகரி ரி சா தாழ தாழ நலமினுமென்று தாழ்வோன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே அந்நிய காரியத்து அகன்றிடுவென்னும் ஆப்தன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே முக்தன் பரமன் அமலன் விமலன் ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே சசப மகரி ரி சரி மகரி ரி ரி மம பதப மகரி ரி ரி மப பத தச சா தச சரி ரி ரி சானிதாத பாமப எதையும் ஈசனாள் என்றியற்றென்று இசைப்போன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே மதித்திடு உலகோ கனவா என்று மௌலி பாதம் வாழ்கவே முக்தன் பரமன் அமலன் விமலன் ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே ரீரி மாம பப மபத தாச சரி சனி தத பரி சரி தபத மகரி சனித சனிதப மகரி அப்பன் கர்த்த நிறைவன் மாதவன் புலவன் வித்தவன் தேவன் அனந்தன் சிலம்பன் ஆப்தன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே முக்தன் பரமன் அமலன் விமலன் ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே முக்தன் பரமன் அமலன் விமலன் ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே பிறருக்கீவது தமக்காமென்னும் பெருமான் பாதம் வாழ்கவே இறைவர்க்கு அலையும் மனதை என்று இசைப்போன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே ரமணன் பாதம் வாழ்கவே. நமோ ரமணாய நமோ ரமணாய நமோ ரமணாய நமோ 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 ரமணாய நமோ ரமணாய நமோ ரமணாய நமோ நமோ பீதிய களவருள் பீதியடித்தோய் பீதியடிப்பாய் நமோ நமோ புண்ணிய ராம ரமண ஜபத்தை கண்டிட தந்தோய் நமோ நமோ பூரண ஞானமளித்தருள் புரியும் காரண குருவே நமோ நமோ பெயர் சொல்லி நின்னை போற்றுவாருள்ளம் பெயரா ரமணா நமோ நமோ என்றரும் நாதா ரமணா நமோ நமோ கைந்தமிழ் மாலை பணிந்தனி விப்பொரு கந்தாய் ரமணா நமோ 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 ரமணாய நமோ ரமணாய நமோ ரமணாய நமோ 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 ரமணாய நமோ ரமணாய நமோ ரமணாய நமோ நமோ. ஓம் நமோ பகவதே ஸ்ரீ ரமணாய.
Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Ramana Charita Chintana Nasha Bhavada Bandhana. If you think of Bhagavan's life, it just destroys all our bandhanas, all our bondage. So let us glance his life from the lines written by Sri Sadhu Om Swami. Let us all sing and dance. Ramana, let us all together remember his life. He is the embodiment of peace, and he has come on this earth as the light. When he came on to this earth, the blind lady who was assisting Alagamal in the delivery could see light all over the place. And she said, Alagu, your son is a divine one. So Alagamal was so happy after listening to this. Sundaram Iyer and Alagamal, as their second child, named Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi as Venkatraman. Our Ramana was called as Venkatraman when he was born. And in Tiruchuri, which is the place where the deluge of the flood happened, the flood of thoughts in our mind which go round and round, happened in Tiruchuri, and there was this child born to remove that flood by questioning, by piercing the question, who am I, again and again. Whenever a thought arises, questioning and getting back to the source was taught by this child. And he had this Purana of Arunachala when he was a small child, even before he could lisp the word mother or father, Amma or Appa. The Arunachala's Purana was there like the breath for all of us. He thought it was natural to everybody, and he never thought that others didn't have it. He had this Chintana of God all the time. And Arunachala on this earth is a place, is what he understood from a relative. And then he was wonderstruck at this information that Arunachala is a place on earth. He thought it was the Smarana inside him. After that, he couldn't stay there. After he won death, that death experience brought him to Arunachala, which was the Spurana in his heart, like the magnet being pulled, the iron fillings being pulled by the magnet. Bhagavan was pulled by Arunachala, and then he also stayed there and also reminds us that he is in our heart. Arunachala is the heart of the whole universe, and here was Ramana who stayed there all all the time after he reached Arunachala. He also tells us, I am in the heart of every being. So Arunachala is not far from us. Ramana is not far from us. It is our own heart. It is there within us. Whenever you question, who am I? It takes us back to this center of the heart. It takes us back to the source. Bhagavan is revealing us, revealing to us all the time. Now, then, now, and forever. And that gives us the ultimate joy. I present to you a song written by Sadhu Om Swami. ಆಡೋಣ ಬನ್ನಿ ಹಾಡೋಣ, ಆಡೋಣ ಬನ್ನಿ ಹಾಡೋಣ, ಒಂದಾಗಿ ಕೂಡಿ ಗುರುಪದ ಸ್ಮರಿಸೋಣ. ಅಮ್ಮ ನಮ ನಮಗಪ್ಪ ನಮ, ರಮಣಾಯ ನಮೋ ಎಂದು ಜಪಿಸೋಣ. ಆಡೋಣ ಬನ್ನಿ ಹಾಡೋಣ. ಶಾಂತ ಸಮುದ್ರ ಶ್ರೀರಮಣ ಅವತಾರ ಚರಿತೆಯ ಹಾಡೋಣ. ಶಾಂತ ಸಮುದ್ರ ಶ್ರೀರಮಣ ಅವತಾರ ಚರಿತೆಯ ಹಾಡೋಣ. ಕಾಂತದಂತೆಮ್ಮ ಸೆಳೆವನಮ್ಮ, ಕಲಿಗಾಲ ದೈವವೇ ಇವನಮ್ಮ. ಆಡೋಣ ಬನ್ನಿ ಹಾಡೋಣ, ಆಡೋಣ ಬನ್ನಿ ಹಾಡೋಣ. ಮಾನ್ಯ ಸುಂದರರ ತನಯನಮ, ಧನ್ಯ ವೆಂಕಟರಾಮನ ಸ್ತುತಿಸೋಣ. ಮಾನ್ಯ ಸುಂದರರ ತನಯನಮ, ಧನ್ಯ ವೆಂಕಟರಾಮನ ಸ್ತುತಿಸೋಣ. ಆದಿ ತಿರುಚುಳಿ ಮಣ್ಣಿನಲಿ, ಅழகಮ್ಮೈ ಗರ್ಭದಿಂ ಬಂದನಮ್ಮ. ಆಡೋಣ ಬನ್ನಿ ಹಾಡೋಣ, ಆಡೋಣ ಬನ್ನಿ ಹಾಡೋಣ. ಬಾಲ್ಯದಿಂದಲೇ ಹೃದಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಗುರುದೇವನ ಚಿಂತನೆಯ ಆಳದಲ್ಲಿ, ಬಾಲ್ಯದಿಂದಲೇ ಹೃದಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಗುರುದೇವನ ಚಿಂತನೆಯ ಆಳದಲ್ಲಿ, ಶ್ರೀ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಹಿರಿಮೆಯದು ತನ್ನ ವೈಭವದೆ ಎಂದು ನಿಂತಿತಮ್ಮ. ಆಡೋಣ ಬನ್ನಿ ಹಾಡೋಣ, ಆಡೋಣ ಬನ್ನಿ ಹಾಡೋಣ. ಎಂದು ಹೃದಯದೇ ಇರುವನಮ, ನಾನಾರೆನಲು ಅವನೇ ಕಾಂಬನಮ. ಎಂದು ಹೃದಯದೇ ಇರುವನಮ, ನಾನಾರೆನಲು ಅವನೇ ಕಾಂಬನಮ. ಅಂದು ಇಂದು ಎಂದು ಆಳ್ವವನು, ನಮಗೊಂದು ಸುಖವ ತರುವನಮ್ಮ. ಆಡೋಣ ಬನ್ನಿ ಹಾಡೋಣ, ಒಂದಾಗಿ ಕೂಡಿ ಗುರುಪದ ಸ್ಮರಿಸೋಣ. ಅಮ್ಮ ನಮ್ಮ ನಮಗಪ್ಪ ನಮ, ರಮಣಾಯ ನಮೋ ಎಂದು ಜಪಿಸೋಣ. ರಮಣಾಯ ನಮೋ ಎಂದು ಜಪಿಸೋಣ, ರಮಣಾಯ ನಮೋ ಎಂದು ಜಪಿಸೋಣ. Namo Ramana. Now we will have a self-enquiry session which will be led by Shri Dileep Simha. Before the session, he will be reading out from Bhagavan's question and answers. Over to Dileep sir.
ध्यायेत् शारदचन्द्रसुन्दरमुखम् ताम्रारविन्देक्षणम् भक्ताभीष्टवराभयप्रदकरम् कौपीनमूत्रोज्ज्वलम् स्वात्मानन्दरसानुभूतिविवशम् सर्वानवद्याङ्गकम् श्रीमन्तं श्रीरमणेश्वरं गुरुवरं योगासनाभ्यासितम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणेश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणेश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणेश्वरम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहमिति साक्षादात्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्मं चिन्वतामुच्चतव पवनचलनरोधात् आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्। Namo Ramana. We will commence the evening Atmavicharam by listening to Bhagavan's Upadesham. I'll be reading his Upadesham from the book Guru Vachaka Kobai, from the chapter Meditation on the Truth, and the subtopic is the unity of Bhakti and Gnana, verse 722. When you investigate, you find that both Parabhakti, supreme devotion, and Gnana are identical in revealing Swarupa. To claim that out of these two, one is but the means, the other is due to not knowing the real nature of either. I repeat, when you investigate, you find that both Parabhakti, supreme devotion, and Gnana are identical in revealing Swarupa. To claim that out of these two, one is but the means to the other is due to not knowing the real nature of either. The person who practices the Gnana or the one who practices the Bhakti has to finally merge in that one truth which alone is. Therefore, Bhagavan is saying here, to claim that Bhakti leads to Gnana, or Parabhakti leads to Gnana, and Gnana leads to Parabhakti, have not really understood the truth. Because the truth is transcendental of all of this, and also includes this. But in itself, it transcends this too. Therefore, to say that one leads to another, in essence, one has not understood the truth, because truth alone is. It is Bhakti too, it is Gnana too, and it is the practitioner too, and it is the transcendental of all the Bhakti, the Gnana, and the practitioner too at the same time. Therefore, to say that Bhakti is superior or leads to Gnana or Gnana leads to Parabhakti Bhagavan is saying here that one has not truly understood what the truth is. In truth, truth alone is, and since truth alone is, all the false has no space for it, or all the false which rises and claims is all transcendental, all coming in for a short while and moving away, because the truth alone is. And as long as these falls stay for momentarily, it also appears to be true. That is the power of the truth. So therefore, we should understand that in the truth, there is unity of jnana, bhakti, yoga, and all the paths. So Bhagavan is saying here that in Parabhakti, the supreme truth, supreme devotion, and the gnana of the unity of everything is both identical and leads us to this Swarupa. And therefore, Bhagavan has given us this Atma Vichara, wherein we can say we are inquiring about who am I, or we are searching and merging our duality in that one truth through Parabhakti. Either which way we may see it as sadhaka, the ultimate truth is the seeker, the knower, is being annihilated, and the truth is alone rising and shining by itself. Therefore, Bhagavan says, whenever thoughts, duality, objects appear, creating a sense of separateness, we should diligently inquire, to whom is this? Then the answer will come, this duality, this separateness is experienced by me. Therefore, we should further inquire, who am I then? And when we do so, the seer, the seen, the knower, the known, all of them, when we trace it back to the source, then we see that the Supreme Swarupa alone is. Therefore, that is the Parabhakti or the Paragnana. So the who am I question brings about the Parabhakti or the Paragnana or the Swarupa, makes us abide in the truth here and now. And therefore, this is the most direct path of abiding in what we really are here and now. So Bhagavan says, no matter how many thoughts come, and whatever may be the nature of the thoughts, whether it is good, bad, ugly, or even spiritual, we should see that it is only an object to the pure self, the pure awareness. And therefore we should diligently inquire, to whom is this, who am I, and trace the thought back to the source, trace the I back to its source, or what do we refer to as I, we should inquire and trace it back. There is no answer, we trace it back to the source. And by repeatedly tracing it back, Bhagavan assures that the mind will get enough strength to transcend this whole duality and abide in the Swarupa, which alone is the immense grace of Bhagavan, with which we have come to this most direct path. For the next 10 minutes, let us do Atma Vichara.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the sharing of Atma Bodha by Sri Venkatesh Deshpande ji.
Oh. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviram Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Dhyanamulam Gurur Murti, Pujamulam Gurur Padam, Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam, Mokshamulam Gurur Kripa. We're doing Manana on Atma Bodha. In the last satsang, we had touched upon verse number 12, where basically you talked about the Stula Sharira, the gross body. And he says that the gross body, the home for experiencing pleasure and pain, is acquired on account of the resultant taints of past actions and is said to be constituted of the 5 great elements. Through a process of self-division and mutual combination called Panchakiranas. So we understand that the 5 great elements, Mahabhutas, are the rudimentary elements, that is space, air, fire, water, and earth. In their pure and nascent form, these subtle elements are called Tanmatras. Tanmatras are subject to grossification through a process called of self-division and mutual combination called Panchakiranas. In the process, the elements are transformed into gross elements. So that's what we had done. And we also, as part of that, saw when an individual dies, what happens? The body becomes cold, and then the fire disappears. Then the body decomposes. The air disappears. Then the liquid, the water oozes out. Water goes off. Then the physical structure goes to the dust, to the earth. Lastly, the space occupied by the body merges into the total space. So this is the first verse about the gross. Now we'll go to the next verse, which is verse number 13, and see what Bhagavan has for us. I request Sapna to kindly chant the verse, please, for us.
Yes, sir. पंच प्राणमनो बुद्धिः दश इन्द्रिय समन्वितम् अपञ्चीकृत भूतोत्तम सूक्ष्मांगं भोग साधनम् पंच प्राणमनो बुद्धिः दश इन्द्रिय समन्वितम् अपञ्चीकृत भूतोत्तम सूक्ष्मांगं भोग साधनम्. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sapna. So normally what happens whenever we experience something, we think the body is experiencing it. It's the physical body is actually experiencing it. But here's another perspective which makes that a very, very different. The subtle body, the instrument of experience formed from the rudimentary elements before Panchakirana. So the Subtle body has the elements in a more subtle form. Consists of the 10 sense organs, the 5 pranas, the mind and the intellect. That's what is there here. And let's see how they operate. It says the subtle body is the instrument of experience. It is made up of the 5 rudimentary elements which have not gone through the process of Panchakirana. We know what is Panchakirana. It's a combination of the 5 elements. So if it comprises of the 5 organs of perception, the Jnanendriyas, the 5 organs of action, which are the Karnendriyas, the 5 life forces, which are the pranas, the mind, which is the manas, and the intellect, which is buddhi. These 17 parts of the subtle body contact the world of objects and gain their experiences of joy and sorrow. The 10 sense organs of perception and action included in the 17 parts are not the gross instruments of the physical body like the eyes, ears, hand, feet, etc. The sense organs referred to is this verse are the sense centers located in the subtle body. There's a sense center. So what happens? These are the powers of perception and action which are subtle and imperceptible, unlike the physical instruments which are gross and perceptible. Your eyes may be looking at an object, but your perception is not registered until the sense center of sensing is contacted. If your mind is absorbed in some deep thought, far away from the object, the sense is not available for the perception. Consequently, the object, though physically in front of the eyes, is not seen. Hence, the faculties of perception and action are said to reside in the respective sense organs. The sense centers of perception are located in the mind, while the sense centers of action are in the intellect. So what happens is, in the case of perception, the stimulus is received by the mind. This is what happens. When you actually see something, what happens? The stimulus is received by the mind. The intellect interprets it and says what? For example, when the eyes see a red object, the mind perceives the stimulus and the intellect interprets its color and shape. Action, however, emanates from the intellect. The intellect orders the responses to the stimuli received. These orders are executed through the medium of the mind. So prana, so for example, if your mind says, okay, I want to eat pani puri. So what happens when your mind says, he sees pani puri, then what happens? Then the perception has happened that you've seen a pani puri stall and you want to eat pani puri. The mind, eyes has seen and that it has perceived it. But then something has to happen. How does the action happen? That happens through the intellect. Intellect will say, okay, come on, get into your get your purse, walk to the pani puri fellow, go and pick up the whatever you want to eat. So all that the action parts happen through the intellect. So what really is happening is everything is happening from within. So actually they say if your mind and intellect are quiet, body is perfectly fine. There's absolutely no thing. But if you really see the people who have psychological problems, what happens? Problem is within, and it is showing up on the body because they're all interconnected through the pranas, is what is being beautifully said here. Prana is a life force. The main prana is one. It is divided into 5 parts according to the diverse function. The 5 pranas are the 5 departments of life's activities. They are known as prana, which is the faculty of perception, controls the 5-fold perception: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. The second is apana, is the faculty of excretion, controls the excretion. Then samana, which is the faculty of digestion, digests the food received by the body. The vayana, which is the faculty of circulation, distributes the digestive food to different parts of the body. And udana is the faculty of thought absorption, taking in fresh knowledge. So there are 2 aspects of the pranas. One is gross
and the other is subtle. The gross pranas are the tangible physiological activities of the physical body, and the subtle pranas are the intangible faculties enumerated above. The former is located in the gross body, while the latter is in the subtle body. The pranas are the connecting link between the gross and the subtle bodies. That's why whenever we say, Bhagavan says, watch your prana, watch it going and go dive deep with them, because of all these connections. There's an absolute connection between the physical body and the subtle body. The connection between the two explains why a person who's mentally upset, a condition of the subtle body, suffers from physiological disorders, activities of the gross body. The 5 pranas mentioned in the list of 17 parts of the subtle body refer to subtle faculties and not the gross physiological functions. The mind is constituted of the subtle elements, whereas the world of objects is made up of gross elements. So it's very important. So it's been beautifully enumerated here how the subtle body works. So really everything is happening in the subtle body. And everything is, we think, this body is everything, the body is important. No, everything is happening inside. The experience is happening inside. The commands are being given from inside to the body to be able to do this or to be able to do that. So there's a beautiful explanation of the subtle body. And the next, we will go to the causal body, which will be the next body that we will touch upon next. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. We will now have a sharing of Devikalotra Jnana Vichara by Dr. Kalarani Rengasamy.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Arunachalamena agame nilaippavar agatte veraruppai Arunachal. Namo Ramana to all. With the abundance grace of Bhagavan, we are meditating on Devikalotra Jnana Vichara Padalam, very graciously given to us by Bhagavan in Tamil. And in the last satsang we saw Parameshwaran explaining the discipline, the niyama that should be followed by a mumukshu. We learn as the mumukshus have no desire for worldly objects and they aim at attaining only mukti. There is no need for them to follow the discipline that they were observing till now. The only achara that needs to be followed by them are to unlearn everything. கொடுத்தது அத்தனையும் கொள்ளை கொடுத்து உன்னை அடைந்தேன் பராபரமே, says தாய்மானவர் in Tamil. Only after losing everything without a trace, I could attain you. Because the acharas are framed with a purpose. What is that purpose? Turning the outgoing mind to concentrate on its source, the self. Why should we do that? Because when the mind goes out, it catches hold of sorrow only. How? When it sees something, some worldly objects, desire arises. Mind gives an instruction that we aspire for that aspect. So, forgetting about the Ananta Swarupa that is very present everywhere and within us, we are made to go behind that object and to get that object. In this process, we face many hardships. At the end, we may get the object, no wonder. But even after getting it, the mind is not stilled. It says, why you have stopped, you have to go there and you have to go behind another object or similar thing like that and go and get that also. Like this, there is no end at all. That is why it is said we have to use our mind and not let the mind to use us. If we do that, we will be caught and put into trouble. I'll tell you an example. Once there was a slave under a powerful king, and the slave was very obedient to the king. He finishes all his work even before given instruction. He was very smart, and king was very happy with him. One day, the king said, "Ask me anything. You are very great. You are very sweet. You do all my work." "No, Maharaj, I don't want anything. Your love and affection is enough for me." No. Ask anything. He forced him. "Okay, then I will ask you something. You must not get angry." "Angry? Why should I get angry?" "Never. Ask me anything that you want." He said, "I want to sit in your throne for 1 day, 24 hours. And you must act as my slave." The king laughed. "Oh, only for such a small thing you hesitated to ask me?" He called all his ministers and assistants and declared that the slave as one-day king. Initially, he was sitting at the edge of the sofa, of the throne. And as the time passed, he sat like a king with putting cross legs. And in the evening, he called the ministers and said, pointing towards the king, "Behead this person. Take off the head." The minister was shocked and said, "Oh, he is our king. So what? For today I am your king. Do what I say." His order was carried out and the king was dead. And this fellow became the permanent king. Now, here the slave is our mind. We are the king. Till we use our mind, it will act as our slave and will be helpful. We can tell the mind to do dhyana. You must do only puja. You must not see the outside world, etc. We can command our mind and take work from the mind. But once we allow the mind to use us, we will be put to trouble. That will dominate us and push us to the sorrow pit. So, for keeping the mind under our control, we need to achieve we need to follow the acharas. That is for Siddha Suddhi. Once Siddha Suddhi happens, the mind will be our slave that will not dominate us. We, the king, become very strong and aspire only for attaining mukti. That is the state of mumukshus. When that state is attained, Bhagavan says they need not continue with what disciplines they were following, like taking a holy dip in the sacred rivers like Ganga, Yamuna. They need not perform puja, yoga, yajna, because by doing these karmas, it is understood that some more achara is left out, some more ahankara is left out. The mumukshus are supposed to leave off all these karmas, that is the acharas that he has to, that is the main achara that he has to follow. He has to unlearn what all was learned earlier, and what all karma he was doing, he has to get rid of that. Nemamum ketira pidatil nigalcheve nama archanam vidira narkarumam pu maruva tirtha nal yatirai தேக ஆர் விரதங்கள் ஓர்த்திட அவர்க்கு ஒன்றும் இல்லையாம். There is no need for him to go for Tirtha Yatra. There is no need for him to observe any fasting or vrata, and these acharas he has to get out of him to attain mukti. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the sharing of Ramana Chatvarimshat by Sri Ujwal Jagadeesh.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. We have been meditating on the verses of Ramana Chatvarimshat written by Vasishta Ganapati Muni, and they have been compiled in this format and given to us by Bhagavan Ramana himself. And these verses are chanted every morning in the Sannidhi of Ramaneshwara Mahalingam at Tiruvannamalai in Ramanashramam. And we are meditating on the verses which are in the tune of Bhagavan Ramana's Upadesa Saram. And there, Ganapati Muni sings of Ramana as these beautiful words. Na karuna guna Ramana tava vidampate Ramana hridaya tejasa Ramana sahaja vaivate Ramana prasarataditha shubha vilokitam Ramanate sakret phalatu me kritam Ramana janmina mai bhavan guru abhidashayastava mahanuru jagadaham para spurati metrayam sadabidam gira tava visamshayam ಕರುಣೆ ಗುಣವಲ್ಲ ರಮಣ ನಿನಗೆ ಒಡೆಯನೇ ರಮಣ ಹೃದಯದಿ ಹೊಳೆಯುವ ರಮಣ ಸಹಜ ಸ್ವರೂಪವೇ ರಮಣ ಹರಿಸು ನನ್ನೆಡೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಕರುಣೆ ನೋಟವ ರಮಣನೇ ಸುಕೃತವು ಫಲವ ಗಳಿಸಲಿ ರಮಣನೇ ಗುರು ಸಕಲ ಜೀವಕ್ಕೂ ಅಭೇದ ಅನಂತವು ನಿನ್ನ ಹೃದಯವು ಜಗಜೀವ ಪರ ಮುರಾಗಿ ಸ್ಫುರಿಸದೆ ಏಕಾತ್ಮವಾಗಿದೆ ತವ ನುಡಿಯಿಂ ನಿಸ್ಸಂಶಯ ಜಗಜೀವ ಪರ ಮುರಾಗಿ ಸ್ಫುರಿಸದೆ ಏಕಾತ್ಮವಾಗಿದೆ ತವ ನುಡಿಯಿಂ ನಿಸ್ಸಂಶಯ. Ganapati Muni says, "Oh Ramana, it is your compassionate glance which gives success to every effort. And it is your compassionate glance when it falls on us that we are drawn to the spiritual path." I remember the conversation that happened between Jamuna Lal Bajaj in the presence of Rajendra Prasad when they came to meet Bhagavan Ramana about 10 years before we got independence. We got independence in 1947, but around 9 years back in the year 1938, around the same time when we were supposed to get the independence, August 14th, 15th and 16th, they were there at Ramanashramam, basking the peace and the silence in the presence of Sadguru Ramana. And the third day when they had to leave, they came to Bhagavan Ramana and asked a few questions. Jamanal Bajaj asked, "Bhagavan, we have been sent by Mahatma Gandhiji to your presence and I have a few questions. Is our effort to attain freedom, Swatantra, Swaraj, is it the right thing that we are? Is it the right effort?" Then Ramana replied, "All our effort actually starts with a selfish motive, saying that I have to get the freedom for my country. But when we continue with the sadhana, slowly we understand that nothing is in our hand. One person cannot bring the freedom to the whole world, the whole country, or freedom to oneself. But there is a divine Shakti which is using you as a tool in this divine mission. So when one understands this in the process of sadhana, one surrenders to that supreme power which has brought you to the sadhana and which is making you undergo this sadhana. So when the next question Jamanalil Bajaj asked, if after all these effort, if one gets freedom, shouldn't we rejoice? And Ramana replied, when one has surrendered to that supreme power and one understands that everything is happening by that glance, the compassionate glance of that supreme power, then where is the elation that we have succeeded and where is sorrow that if we don't succeed? But that divine glance gave us success and we all attained freedom for our country on August 15th, 1947. And later, when Jawaharlal Bajaj asked the tapasya of these great ones, the great jnanis who are born in India, including the tapasya of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi, should this tapasya not help us in our efforts? And Ramana replied, that tapasya, that tapashakti of the jnanis is available all the time. And understand that it is that tapashakti which has brought you to this path. It is that tapashakti of the great jnanis which has brought us into this spiritual path of attaining freedom, not only to our country, but to each one of us, the internal freedom that we had to attain. So it has brought us to this path. But that power belongs to everyone. That power which we dearly called as Ramana, the Atma Shakti Ramana, it is available to everyone, all the beings in the whole world. So one cannot say that this Shakti should only give Shakti to my effort, but it is blessing every effort. And that Shakti, Atma Shakti, the Tapas Shakti has come into our lives as Ramana. And that Ramana Shakti is giving answers to all our questions. And through the answers that we are obtaining, the Upadesha that we are obtaining from that Atma Shakti, the Shakti which is shining within every heart, Arunachala, as the Guru Ramana, it is telling that the Jiva, the Jagat and the Ishvara are all the same. In Saddarshanam, we have a verse where Bhagavan Ramana says that these three things, that is the individual, the world and the God, these three things are there in all the religions and all the philosophies. And how we see these three has created many philosophies, the variations in the philosophy. One of the philosophy says that the world, the Jiva and the Ishvara are three different entities and they can never be one. And some other philosophy says, but these look different. The Jiva, Jagat and the Ishvara, but in essence they are all one. Later, at one point, we will understand that we are one. And one more philosophy says that there is no difference at all. There is no division at all. So Ramana says, all these, the talk of the individual, the world and the Ishvara, it only arises only when the ego arises within us. When the ego arises, the ego sees all these difference. I am different from the world. And the world is taken care by this supreme power, Ishvara. And I have to understand this Ishvara. I have to understand the Leela of the Ishvara. So all this arises only when the entity called ego arises within us. But when this ego does not arise at all, then there is no question of all these three entities. They all become one. They all shine as one Atma Shakti. Sad Bhava or Ekanma Vastu. There is an instance where a science student comes to the hall where Ramana is sitting. And this science student sees here and there that some people are meditating, some people are reading in the ashram, in the hall, and Ramana himself sitting, gazing some infinity and sitting. So he sees here and there and he does not know what to do. He is a science student. So he picks up a book of the Ulladu Narpadu and he starts reading the first verse. And the first verse says that everything is one. The seer, seen, and the world is all one, the he. And reading this, he is disappointed. He didn't understand this point, and he just closes the books, and with a great disappointment, he just makes a sigh. And Ramana looks at him compassionately and asks, "What happened?" And the boy, the student who was a science student, said Bhagavan Ramana, saying that, "Swami, what is this first verse says that we are all one. But how can that be true? I see you sitting there separately and I am sitting here. So how can we both be one? Obviously there are two people and there are more people. There is Jagat with so many varieties and so many people. How can you say there is only one?" And Ramana slowly, compassionately asked, "You say you are a science student. So you understand that if you see some object, you may see it in some form and some color. But if you keep the same object under a microscope, then you will see much more details in it. You will see that this object is not smooth, but it is made up of so many various things. If you have a better microscope, a microscope with higher resolution, then you can go deeper into that object and you can understand the deeper truths in it." So you understand that, no? So the observation that we are doing, it depends on the instrument that we are using. We may be using the best microscope, but imagine there is some problem with our eyes. There is some power in our eyes and we are not able to perceive the object well. So then what will happen? Although the microscope, the instrument that you are using is good, but the instrument of eye is faulted. Okay, maybe your eyes is perfect, but imagine your mind is disturbed and you are not able to concentrate on what you are seeing. It is thinking of something else. Then will you be able to do the observation well? No, said the science student. So you understand that it is the tool that you use to see the object. The sight varies, the observation varies. So you are using an instrument which is very, very limited, which has limited perception, which is called the mind. When you see the world through the mind, you see all these differences. You see the individual separate from the world, and world is separate from the God. But when one understands the truth, when one sees with the right instrument, with the eye of wisdom, with the eye of the heart, drishtim jnanamayim kritva, when you see the world with the drishti of jnana, then the whole world becomes jnana. Then you will understand that what exists is only one vastu. Jnana alone exists. There is no jnani. There is no seeker who has to attain the state of a jnani. There is only jnana alone which exists, says Bhagavan Ramana. And with this instruction given by Bhagavan Ramana, Upadesha given by Bhagavan Ramana, the account ends saying that this boy who had got this Upadesha from Bhagavan Ramana, who was satisfied with that answer, went back, and we have never heard of him coming back to Ramana because all his doubts was cleared and there was no samshaya, nissamshayam. Without any samshaya, he had understood that what exists is only one, Atma Shakti. And Ramana has blessed us with these Upadesha that he has spoken with his sweet voice. We've not been able to hear the voice of Bhagavan Ramana, but those who have been there in his presence, Vishwanatha Swami in its Ashtottaram says, Mridu Bhashinen Namaha, one who speaks so sweetly. And what is that sweetness? That sweetness which takes us back to our own true nature, which is one where there is no difference. There is only one Atma Shakti. That state, that sweet state, it blesses us. To that sweet voice of Bhagavan Ramana, Ganapati Muni pays his obeisance. And we also pay our obeisance to Ramana, who has come into our lives and sweetly telling us this truth slowly and silently, so that we understand it slowly and understand our infinite nature. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We will have now the sharing of Ramana Ashtottara by Dr. Sarada. This is written by Vishwanatha Swami.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings. By the grace of the self, manifest as Ramana. In this part of the satsang, we are meditating on the Ramana Ashtottara Shatanamavali, the 108 names, the litany of 108 names on Bhagavan Ramana, composed by Vishwanatha Swami. And this is also biographical in nature, and it covers various incidents in Bhagavan's life, especially the first part of the Ashtottaram has a detailed coverage of Bhagavan's birth in Tiruchuri, and then his education and his enlightenment in Madurai, and his coming to Tiruvannamalai. After his coming to Tiruvannamalai, we find that the early years of Bhagavan are described by Vishwanatha Swami through a series of adjectives of Bhagavan, which is after he comes, Pituradeshatah Shonachailam Praptaha. Who is this father? This father is Shiva himself. Because Pitru Padanveshine, he says, I have set out in search of my father. That is what Bhagavan wrote in the letter. Who is this father? It is not Sundaramayyar who passed away when Bhagavan was 12. To clarify that, Vishwanatha Swami in the very next nama, he says, Indumaulina Pitrumate. Indumaulina Pitrumate Namaha. So the father is he who wears the crescent moon on his head. Indumaulina Pitrumate. So, to Lord Shiva, Bhagavan comes and reports, Pituradeshatah Shona Shailam Praptaha. According to your command, I have come. Father, I have come. Then what happens after this? Tapomaya, Udasina, Mahayogi, Mahotsaha, Kushagradhi, Shanta Sankalpa Samrambaha, Susandrik Savitaha, Stiraha, Tapakshapita Sarvangaha, Pullam Budavilochanaha, Chandrika Sitahasa Shri Manditanana Mandala. All these are adjectives through which Vishwanatha Swami describes this young sage. Of course, the very first adjective is Tapomaya, which we meditated on. Bhagavan was obviously lost in great tapas. Tapas is great penance. He was just absorbed in the self. That self which is the all-pervading light without beginning and end. As described by Bhagavan in Arunachala Pancharatnam. Kabalita Ghana Vishwarupa Kiranavalya. He was completely absorbed in that light of the self. Tapomaya, Udasina. Therefore, he was indifferent. We cannot see one more indifferent to his body than Bhagavan has been in the entire 54 years. From the moment he set off from his home in Madurai till the moment he dropped his body in this month of April, on the April 14th, 1950, Bhagavan did not care even an ounce about the body. Udasina. Sometimes it looked as if he did not care about the others around him also. It may have appeared to be like that. But he was at one with the self, Mahayogi. He was in union with the self always. And being in union with the self, he was in union with all beings. There was none apart from him. One who is absorbed in the self, everything is contained in him because everything is contained in the self. So, he may appear to be indifferent, but he alone is the fullness of love because he is the Mahayogi. And he himself is Shiva, who is the Mahayogi. Mahayogini Namaha, Mahotsahaya Namaha. And because of that, because he is everything and everyone, he alone is full of enthusiasm, the Supreme One. Out of that great enthusiasm only, if at all we can say there is a creation, if at all we can say there is a world that we see, what a magnificent world it is. What an extraordinary world in terms of its vastness, in terms of its literally infinitude. There are billions of galaxies, we say. Imagine a force which is creating billions of galaxies, each galaxy having billions of stars, and some stars having the solar systems around them, and the solar systems, each of the planets having moons around them, some one, some many moons, and some having life, and so many millions of living organisms. Each one actually constructed with the minutest of details. Today we heard Venkatesh Deshpande ji dwelling on the Panchikarana in Atma Bodha. How the elements break up, they mix up, they come into being. Then the gross world is created. And what minute details. Within every organism, if we take one human body, the kind of details that are built into it, it is amazing, it is incredible. Now, why would somebody take the pains to create such a magnificent universe unless he is one ever filled with enthusiasm? See, human beings, we do love certain aspects. We all have aptitudes for one kind of activity. Say somebody may love to dance, somebody may love to do someone may love to do programming on the computer, someone may like to cook good dishes, someone may like to sing, some others may like to talk to people. Whatever it is, we have different proclivities, we have different aptitudes, we have different interests. And that which interests us, we are ready to indulge in most of the time. But even that, sometimes we may tire of it. We may feel tired, but not so the one who is creating this universe. Never tires, never tires. Mahotsaha. And that we see. Because only one who is abiding in the self can be full of enthusiasm. Because for us, that enthusiasm dims. It dims because we have a sense of doership, that I am doing something, that I must do something. And this sense of doership, when it is hampered in any way, either that we indulge in overactivity and become tired, because of which we are unable to cope up, or else our activity does not meet with sufficient response from the audience to which we are addressing it. Any such thing can dampen our interest. But the Supreme One, He Himself is the actor, He Himself is the audience, He Himself is the show, He Himself is the stage. There is no question of tiring. In fact, it is only out of enthusiasm, it's only out of love that such a process, the creative process is happening. And there is this expression in the form of the universe. So He is Mahotsaha. And the self is ever bubbling with bliss. There is no trace of sorrow. There is no trace of any tiresomeness over there. When Bhagavan says in Appalam song, Santatam Salippara Santoshamagave, you practice the making of appalams, you practice the self-enquiry constantly, without any tiresomeness, and joyously. This is how we always interpret it. But Bhagavan says at the end of the Appalam song, he says, Tane Tanaha Bujikka. For the self to eat the self, how does the self do it? How does the self taste itself? It does so santatam, always. Salippara, it is never tired of tasting itself. It is never tired of reveling itself in itself. Reveling in itself. It is not tired of that. And of course, it is ever blissful. Mahotsaha. Kushagradhi. Sharp intellect. An intellect that has no distraction whatsoever, because there is no motive. Task on hand is taken up and fulfilled and then forgot. Is there? Just that moment, complete focus on the moment. Kushagrathi, Shanta Sankalpa Samrambha. All actions proceed from the silence of the self, from the peace of the self. Everything proceeds. Automatic divine activities is done. Shanta Sankalpa Samrambha Sanduk, the one who sees everything with an equal eye. This is the state of the Jivan Mukta, the Sahaja Nishtha. The Sahaja Nishtha, which alone was manifesting in this boy of 16 to 19, in those early years of Bhagavan. Bhagavan always was in that state. But in later years, we can see the Bhagavan who is overtly compassionate, who is interacting with the devotees, who is responding to them at their levels of needs and questions and doubts and anxieties. But here we see just the radiance of the self, pure. Savitri Namaha. Radiant, shining like the sun, like a million suns. Savitri Namaha. Sthiraya Namaha. Absolutely unshaking. Not shakeable in any way. Nothing can shake Bhagavan. But his body is emaciated. Apakshapita Sarvangaya. Though the body is emaciated, the eyes are beautiful, like full-blown lotuses. And there is a smile, a beautiful smile, like the nectar dripping from the moon. The beautiful smile is adorning his face. Such a one is seated in the mango grove, says Vishwanatha Swami. Chutavatyam Samasenaya Namaha. Even there, Samadrik, Samasena, all the time the equality. When asked in Bhagavad Gita, in Ramana Gita, when asked, what is the hallmark of a jnani? Bhagavan says, Sarva Bhuta Samatva. The Samatva of the jnani is what marks him out. The equality of the Jnani, of the Jivan Mukta, is what marks him out. So, here, Chutavatyam Samasinayana. And from this mango grove, in the mango grove itself, what did Bhagavan do so far as the relative Nilyappar was concerned? Churnita Akhila Vibhramaya Namaha. He destroyed all his delusions of being able to take him back. And this Nama also covers further the destruction of the dreams in a way. Vibhramaha. Brahmaha is the roaming, the movements. Vibhramaha, the roaming around of the mind. All that he destroyed for Mother Aragama also and put her back into silence, the path of true silence. Churnita Khila Vibhramaya Namaha, says Shrunatha Swami in the next name of the Ramana Ashtottara. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the chanting of Aksharamanamalai by Srimati V. Radha along with Vallabh Srinivasa.
Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Sombiya summa sukamundurangidu solveren gadi Arunachala. Sauriyam kaatine sezhakatradendre சலியாதிருந்தாய் அருணாச்சலா. நமலிர் கேடா நான் என்னுறுதியல் நாடி நின்னுருவேன் அருணாச்சலா. ஞானம் இல்லாதுன் ஆசையற்றவர ஞானம் தெரி தருள் அருணாச்சலா. நிமிரு பொனியும் மலர்நிலை என்று மேனின்றன என் அருணாச்சலா. தத்துவம் தெரியாத தனை ஊற்றாய் தத்துவம் இதுவென் அருணாச்சலா. தானே தானே தத்துவம் இதனை தானே காட்டுவாய் அருணாச்சலா. திரும்பி அந்தனை தினமாக கண்காண் தெரியும் என்றென்ன என் அருணாச்சலா. தீரமில்லகத்தில் தேடி உந்தனையான் திரும்ப உற்றேன் அருள் அருணாச்சலா. துப்பறிவில்லாய் பிறப்பெண் பயன் ஒப்பிடவாயேன் அருணாச்சலா. தூய்மன மொழிய தோயும் உண்மையாம் தோயவே அருளன் அருணாச்சலா. தெய்வம் என்றுன்னை சாரவே என்னை சேர ஒழி தாய் அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சலம் வாழி அன்பர்களும் வாழி. அக்ஷரமணமாலை வாழி. நமோ ரமண.
Namo Ramana. We will conclude today's satsang with the Ashtottara puja to Bhagavan. The Ashtottara puja will happen at Sri Dileep Simha's altar. The chanting of Ashtottara will be done by Revathi and Uma and Ashwini. श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामावली अपार सच्चित्सुखवारिराशेः यस्योर्मिमात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि। ॐ महासेनमहोंशेन जाताय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः। ॐ गुरवे नमः। ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः। ॐ महौजसे नमः। ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः। ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः। ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः। ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः। ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः। ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः। ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः। ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः। ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः। ॐ श्रीमद्द्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः। ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः। ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः। ॐ तीव्राय नमः। ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः। ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः। ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः। ॐ तपोमयाय नमः। ॐ उदासीनाय नमः। ॐ महायोगिने नमः। ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः। ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः। ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः। ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः। ॐ सवित्रे नमः। ॐ स्थिराय नमः। ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ फुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः। ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ चूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः। ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः। ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजदचलाकृतये नमः। ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः। ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्यनिभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः।
ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्री शोणाचलहृद्भूतस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्न संशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविदायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादगसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ हृच्चान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणात्मन्दमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ षोडाद्रीशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगभिषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः।
ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्री अष्टोत्तर शतनाम पूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थाणोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्या जनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रह सुप्रवाह विवशस्थादात्म्यभावं गतः रन्निष्ठस्वगभीर नित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनास्येकराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावर्ण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि दर्शन सुख मंगल मुख सकल जीवहित सम्मुख ब्रह्म संगिये सदा तुष्ट सदा हृष्ट सदा शिवानंद पुष्ट परम महर्षि ब्रह्मनिष्ठ समदर्शी नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावर्ण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि ನಮ್ಮ ಮನವದೊಂದು ಕಾಡು ನೀನರಿತೆ ಅದರ ಜಾಡು ಹಿತವನರಿತು ನೀಡುತ್ತೆಮ್ಮ ಕೊರೆಯ ತಣಿಸಲೈ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಣಿವೆ ಮೈಯ ಮೂಡಿಗಾರನೇ ಹಿತವ ನುಡಿದು ಕೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಗಿಯೇ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರ್ಣ ನಮೋ महर्षि नमो महर्षि। बोलो भगवान श्री रमण महर्षि की।
Announcements or any issue comes under